Well, hello there, and welcome back to a very rainy edition of It's Just About Time. Here we are in the wonderful Crabtree Park, one of my nice little haunts that I enjoy coming to just to admire the view and see what's new. And today I want to talk about the Bremont Argylle GMT. So today I want to talk to you about the Argylle GMT from Bremont watches. In 2024, Bremont had the weirdest year it's ever had, let's face it. It's kind of impossible to talk about Bremont nowadays or give any kind of review without also giving some sort of mention of the fact that the company, as it was, has entirely collapsed. It no longer exists as its former self. It's now essentially an entirely different brand. It's the only thing that remains the same is the pronunciation of the word Bremont. That's it. Everything else has changed. The logo has changed, the watch designs have changed, the design language has changed, the aesthetic has changed, the people it's aimed at have changed. They have replaced the cast. So, yeah, not quite sure how we do this one, but let's give it a try. Watches and Wonders 2024 is where Bremont unveiled their new Terra Nova series along with the Supermarines. This was a bit of a mixed reception, to say the least, because us, the fans, noticed that there is absolutely nothing in common with the typical watches that they would do. You were missing the triptych case design, you were missing the hardened steel case, you were missing the Martin Baker shock mount, you were missing chronometer-certified movements, you were missing the usual sort of attention to detail that they'd pay on the sapphire crystal, which meant 9 layers of anti-reflective coating on both sides of the glass, although that's nothing I can confirm, but it's nothing they brag about anymore, so one can assume they don't really do it. Now, I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea of changing up a watch or having a new design, but I feel like when it comes to watch designs and the sort of people that like them, it's like cars. It's like anything. You've got to go slow. You must have evolution and iteration, not instantaneous, spontaneous explosions of newness. Sure, you can unveil a new case, you can show new things, but you got to take it slow. Otherwise, what happens is exactly what did happen with Bremont, which is that us, the old fans, were shocked and essentially recoiled in horror at what had become of our wonderful brand, seeing that the CEOs have now left. That's Nick and Giles English. They're no longer part of this endeavor. All of the people who made Bremont what it is today have all since either left or moved on, or it seems a lot of people have left the company. I want to be fair to Bremont. I don't want to, say that they're absolutely on death's door and that's it. I mean, it could just well be this is the best decision they've ever made, but I want to try and spell out in this video why I feel the way I feel about Bremont and why I'm just kind of saddened with what's gone on. So let's show you what I believe Bremont used to be versus what they are now. Bremont's core used to be that you would have a watch that is made for military personnel, essentially. It was a pilot's watch to begin with, and of course they improved that with the Supermarine for the divers, and then of course more showier pieces, so they did eventually branch out, but it started out life as a concept as a pilot's watch. And with that we had the triptych case design, the Martin Baker shock mount, we had the slogan, "Tested beyond endurance." That's such a great tagline. I mean, it's so strong, it's so masculine, it's just so sure of itself. It's not just so much as a tagline or a mission statement, it's a promise. It suggests quality, it suggests that people have paid attention to the things that can go wrong with a watch, and they have intended and endeavoured to make sure that this doesn't happen with these. And so, doing away with the really cool case design, the aesthetic, the logo, everything that had to do with Bremont in the first place, it's just a great big shame, because I really feel like they were just starting to gather momentum. They had their ENG movement, and this was exciting. A new movement from Bremont. I don't know, a few people have whinged about the fact that, well, they bought the patent to the K1 movement or something like this, and they then proceeded to re-engineer it up to 70% to their own specifications and change it, and I'd remind you that they're not the first watchmaker to claim a watch movement by buying the company that makes it. No one ever seems to give Rolex any grief for having bought a company that makes a movement and then calling it their own. So what have we got now? Well, the modern range, the Terra Novas, the new Supermarines, sure, they're okay in their own right. I've tried them on, I've seen them in real life, and they're okay, but that's it, they're just okay. And the price point is still quite high. For the same price, you could get a Tudor, you could certainly get a few Christopher Wards, you can get a Longines, you can get a lot of watches for the same money. What's the buying point for a Bremont at the moment? The buying point before was that it was a British-made watch, which was exciting. Well, it's got bugger all to do with Britain now, considering that the cases are made in China, and sure, the assembly's done in England, but... And you might say, well, how's that any different to how it was before? Well, at least they made the cases before. I mean, they did a lot of work in-house. Yes, that did kind of change over time, and, you know, there were certain things outsourced to different companies, but at least they started with that idea. I mean, at the end of the day, sure, the reality is that manufacturing is always going to mean that you're going to have to compromise somewhere. But I feel like they were slowly getting it down, and I think once that they had got the ENG movement in a few different iterations, you know, a few different complications, that they then could have really started really going for it. Well, that's not going to happen anymore, because it's all basically been stopped. So then we come to 2024, Watches and Wonders. So they released their new watches, but just before that, in February of 2024, a little movie came out from Matthew Vaughn called Argylle.
I certainly hope you dance as well as you dress.
There's only one way to find out.
Put on your red shoes and dance the blues.
Get up and start again. Start again.
Now, sadly, Argylle was not another Kingsman movie, which was a bit of a shame, because I think we were all hoping for that. I think every single person who saw this film was really hoping to see Henry Cavill as James Bond. I think we all want to see Henry Cavill do something with his acting career where he doesn't get screwed over by the filmmakers. I'm looking at you, DCEU, I'm looking at you, The Witcher, and every other thing that screwed him over. So if he were to play James Bond, that would just be the best. Now, Argylle, I felt like it was an okay movie. It was fun. I watched it. I enjoyed it. But the watches that were made for the movie from Bremont were really cool, because Matthew Vaughn has a relationship with Nick and Giles English, having done the watches for Kingsman. Kind of makes sense. I think that Nick and Giles did Matthew Vaughn a favour in that case. But it's quite clear that these watches were made just with the idea that it's kind of a movie tie-in and nothing more, because they're not really featured in the movie. You don't really see them that much. In fact, it's more than a blink and you miss it moment. There's far more material of the watches in the advertisement stuff than there is in the actual movie. So that's a bit of a shame. It would have been nice if Matthew Vaughn could have given at least one of those Bremont pieces some sort of gadget thing. I mean, at the end of the day, you have a fantasy secret agent. At least give him a watch that can communicate with with HQ or something like that, or, you know, have a frickin' laser beam attached to it, you know. But has to be said, these watches, there are 3 Argylle watches, and they're all beautiful. We're going to focus on the Argylle GMT at the moment because I do also have the Argylle U2. I do not have the LE because there were only 35 pieces that made and they're already sold out, so they're gone, unfortunately. And I haven't seen any of them online secondhand, so I think everyone who bought them probably kept them. That's a nice watch. But at the moment, I want to talk about the GMT. It's based on the Solo 43 case. It has high polished steel, so it really glistens beautifully. The indices on the watch are gold plated, so when it catches the light, they absolutely come alive. It's wonderful. And the same treatment is given to the handset, which is also gold plated. The GMT hand, I've heard a few people say it looks a bit odd, but to be honest, I quite like it. I think it stands out enough that you can tell it's a GMT hand and not a running seconds hand, because at first blush when you look at the dial, you assume that the GMT hand is the center seconds, but it's not. So having the GMT hand look the way it does, I think actually suits it very well. And once you get used to it, it's the sort of thing you can't really imagine it looking like anything else. Now, this watch does pay more than a little bit of similarity with the Wright Flyer watch, which was something else that Bremont did a while back that did have apparently a proprietary movement, but turned out not quite so proprietary as they thought. Look at the internet for all the information on that. It was probably one of Bremont's biggest missteps. I believe that was in 2018, but don't quote me on that. But either way, it was one of those things that was a bit of a problem for enthusiasts of the brand. They didn't particularly care for this one. I've worn this watch on a NATO strap, I put it on leather straps, I put it on just about everything, and it's a strap monster. And I tell you what, much to my surprise, this watch has become my daily piece. I wear it all the time. I wear it at work, I wear it at home, and whenever I'm looking for a watch to put on, I tend to gravitate towards this, because with my Kingsman, my other Argylle piece, my White Desert, and my Supermarine, I tend to baby them a bit. I've kept them in the watch box because I don't want to mess them up or nothing. Whereas with this one, I mean, it's not like I'm not trying to look after it, but it's a watch that I just really feel really good about putting on in the morning. So, and at the moment, at the time of making this video, you can buy this watch for an astonishing discount. If you look at either Topper Jewelers or Exquisite Timepieces in the US, they're offering these pieces for a substantial discount. So honestly, I'd say go along to their website, and they are selling these through Chrono24 as well. I've noticed that. So say if you want to pick one of these up, you can get them at a supreme discount right now. Just saying. If you're watching this in the future, sorry, I probably missed the offer, but there's nothing I can do about that. You'll just have to travel back in time. Let's talk a little bit about the movement, since that obviously is a bit crucial. So this one has a very strange movement. This actually uses a Sellita 690A. Now, this in of itself is a chronograph movement, but it doesn't have any of the chronograph features. Now, I think that the reason that they use this is because it's the combination that will allow them to have hours and minutes and a GMT function as well as date and small seconds. And it is chronometer rated, by the way. This does have a serial number on it, and it's running actually very well, it has to be said. The watch is advertised as having a 56-hour power reserve, which I'm not going to shake a stick at. That's very cool. And basically is running very well. I've had this on the time grapher, and it's showing 0 seconds per day, so it's just like, nice. So you may be wondering, is the movement anything special? Well, not really. I mean, basically an ETA 7750 or a Sellita SW500 or higher is basically the Swiss equivalent of a Seiko movement. They're not bad, but they're kind of, mass-produced, they're cheaply made. They're really nothing special. But at the end of the day, they'll do the job. They're still good. And the great timekeeping, certainly better timekeeping than a Seiko anyway. Definitely worthwhile if you can pick this up for the discount that it's currently on. And I've enjoyed wearing it as a daily wear watch. It's just one of those things where I put it on and I'm real happy with what that looks like. So I actually struggle to take my eyes off it sometimes because it's a really gorgeous dial. So yeah, I stand by it. Dial-wise, it's beautiful. The rhomboid Argylle patterning is simply superb. The word Argylle looks great, and it's just one of those things. It's a great little movie tie-in. It's a spy watch. It's a great little watch. And, if you can pick it up for a discount, you're not going to feel sorry about it. This watch is really nice to wear. It has this beautiful exhibition case back, and the entire shell is just gorgeous. It really is. So, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.